Try to make this short. Hey there, real quick before this video gets started. The audio is going to be very different on this from what we normally have on these videos because my microphone was not properly working during most of the video. Now, luckily, there is still audio. It's going to be the audio from my camera, but it's not as good quality, and during the actual reaction while we're watching the episode, there are going to be times where the episode is going to be a bit louder than we are. Now, I've tried to rectify this a number of ways. I've tried to, just make it easier to hear, but there's also two other things I've done. In some parts where it's just a little too hard to hear, I've added in some text to show what we're saying, but I've decided to go a step further, and basically the YouTube closed captions, I'm going to go in and, pretty much overhaul them to be spot on during the reaction. I'm not going to be doing that for the whole video. The rest of the video in the discussion is just going to be the normal auto-generated subtitles, because doing subtitles for an hour and 18-minute video is a bit difficult, or around an hour and 18 minutes. But yeah, so those are two options. If you want to just try to brave it and try to listen as best you can, there is that option, even though, yes, there will be some text. But if it's just too hard during the reaction, then hit the closed caption button here on YouTube, and that will let you be able to hear all the, stupid jokes that we say throughout the video. Also, if you guys, if any of you are watching this in full length, I'm going to be doing the exact same thing for you guys. Because I'm pretty sure you can do that for how I upload the full length. So, and if that's the case, I am going to go through and do my best to, even though that's going to be a long time, I'm going to do my best to get the closed captions working on there. But yeah, so, and it's not until about the 2-hour mark in the recording that I realized the microphone was not on, but it's somewhere towards the end of the discussion, and this won't happen again. I'm now going to quadruple check whenever my microphone is not running. But yeah, so hopefully this is still watchable. I'm pretty sure it is still watchable, but yeah, so hope you enjoy. Sorry about this. We'll do better next week. Somehow I made that longer.
Hey guys, Alex and Dad from Some Mythology Films, back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around, we started off Planet of the Spiders. What was that one about?
Well, what I'm vaguely remembering is that it's Metabolus 3.
Yes.
Yes. And apparently it is run by spiders.
Yes.
And they want the blue crystal that the Doctor took way back when.
Right.
And there's a whole group of people who are somehow thinking they can use the spider's power to take over the world.
Yeah, it was mainly the one guy, Lupton.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then Joe gets accidentally transported to the planet of spiders.
Sarah Jane, yes.
Sarah Jane, sorry. And a little foggy. Then the Doctor goes to find her, and they end up in what looks to be like a cross between the Wild West and ancient Rome, with the giant spider queen.
Yes.
That's about right.
Pretty much. Although giant spider queen, I guess technically for a spider, so. But yeah, it's about yay big spider queen, so. But that doesn't sound as threatening as giant spider queen. So yeah. Yes, we are on the far off distant planet of Space New Mexico, where the spiders inhabit. So yeah. Very, very strange overall. And there's also the people on Metabolus 3 that are trying to stop the 8 legs.
Oh, yes.
So
The 2 legs versus the 8 legs.
yes. So it's all very strange. Also, Yates is there. So
I don't remember that, but I guess.
yeah. Well, I mean, he's not on the planet, I guess, but he was at the Lamasery and stuff, and then he's the one that called up Unit. So yeah, it's a very strange one overall, and a very weird one to go out on, because we are 95% positive we're going out on this one. So yeah,
Because if this is the end of season 11,
yeah,
then this is his last season.
I would imagine. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure See, that's the thing. I'm not sure where we're really going with this one. Like, I guess we just have to defeat the spiders. So just get a couple cans of Raid and some decent shoes, and you can probably take them out. But I guess the spiders also have their electricity powers. So, yeah. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Well, if this is, and again, we're pretty positive this is the last of the John Pertwee stories, so stay tuned for after the discussion. Of course, that predicates that you actually watch the discussion. Some people do, some people don't. It's all right, but stick around after the discussion, and we will be going over every John Pertwee story in rapid succession to try to give brief thoughts on all of them before we finish out here. So yeah. So let's just go ahead and jump right back into Planet of the Spiders. Here we go.
The girl, she's gone.
Then you will be punished. We cannot wait. It will soon be dark. Bring the mail.
So it was a thorough search.
Down.
Donut.
I'll do some reading.
I wonder why he's here.
Obviously serving some purpose, but we don't know yet.
Well,
You don't write a character like that in that less. Well, stole something. Didn't he steal the crystal?
oh yeah.
I agree with Lupton. I see. It would seem that you are not aware of the extent of your failure.
Failure?
You were followed to Metavenus by 2 Earthspies. The male is dead, but the female lives, a danger to the state and our person. I suggest, sisters, that until she has been captured, we refuse to listen to these traitors. Do you agree?
Spiders mumbled in agreement.
Ugh. So what if he becomes really smart now?
Say our prayers.
TARDIS. In the TARDIS is a machine. That old leather satchel.
What kind of machine can save a man's life? I don't know.
I don't remember the key actually looking anything other than a key before.
Yeah. I thought it was just a shed key.
There it is. The bag he spoke of. I'm going to get it.
And it's only like 10 feet away across the street.
Regular patrols.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Whatever that was.
Been 11 years, we've never seen it before.
I think we ought to have a little chat.
Man, I was hoping all that hair would be a cushion for him.
Stop now.
Ugh.
This is good. Very, very good. What is it?
You know why the spiders don't eat browns?
Mutton? We have sheep on Metavenus
Why?
Street?
Tastes
Our
fine.
ancestors brought them with them. Thank you. Refused to survive the crash. Well, your ancestors were colonists.
The 8 legs? Why, they came from Earth too.
But there aren't any spiders as big as these on
Keep
Earth.
your voice down, my child. That word's forbidden here.
8 legs wiped them out. 269 of them. Even the children.
Quite ruthless. We must
Not just
attack
the
them
men,
now.
but the women and the children too.
Doctor, you're alive! I knew you'd come. Oh, Doctor.
All right.
Well, I'd have to say the foreshadowing is there. The doctor
Yeah.
almost dying,
Yeah.
and will probably end up in somewhat of a weakened state. So
Yeah.
that when episode 6 happens, that's how he will leave us.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the thing with the first Doctor when we were like counting up how many different times he gets like attacked and thrown and hit by a beam of some kind. I was like, he's probably racking up the damage. It's going to give out on him any second now. So, yeah. It's interesting that they're alluding now to this great one, this great spider, I guess, who must be our sort of main villain. But I kind of like how Lupton and the one spider, they're playing with them. They're trying to stall for time and stuff like that. They're bluffing. And just kind of seeing the spider politics going on. That's pretty interesting, I must say. So, and then that was a funny cliffhanger of just, oh, you're not here to save me. End of episode.
Do you hear me? I shall this very day speak with the Great One herself. Oh, praise to the Great One. Oh, praise to the Great One.
Oh. Now I know what a fly feels like.
Or a burrito.
Absolutely fascinating experience.
I must come with you.
No, Raker. This is man's work.
Why do we wait? We're ready.
Very well, then.
Ah, very Rudolph.
Anna, wait.
A little trick I learned from an old friend of mine. Harry,
Houdini.
what was his name?
No.
Hopkins.
No,
that's not right. Hetherington.
Good thing these things aren't sticky.
Schmidt. I know it began with an H. Houdini. Yes, that was it. Harry Houdini.
When they used to put Houdini in a straitjacket, he would
As soon as I
expand
resonate
his
that, I'll find a
muscles
knife
as
and come
much
back
as
for
he
you.
could. So when they tightened it up, then all he had to do was relax, and it became very loose and he could get out of it.
The invasion of your planet is a foolhardy venture. It could destroy us. I have lied to the Council. I have said I will visit the Great One, but
The Great One?
never mind. I lied to the Council, but I had to lie. I desire only peace with you and all two legs.
Then why have you treated them as slaves?
It was necessary. Stop fighting me, child. I intend to help you and your doctor friend to escape back to Earth.
It was necessary
that's
to make
more
them slaves.
like it.
I don't know if that's the best
why?
defense you have.
You know.
That's a little too jazzy.
It's gonna take a while for them to get all of their scouts there. Oh no. He was a good guy.
This is the Dr. Campbell. I know. You are welcome.
Oh, but what if
My
he's
friend
in
Sarah
on
Jane
it
Smith.
with the Great One?
It is kind of you to come and visit an old man.
Okay,
right.
so the mysterious Kanpo, abbot of the Lamasery, knows the doctor from somewhere.
Yes.
Well, the only other time he's been to Tibet.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, was during the Yetis.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. That was season 5, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, season 4 or 5. And obviously, it was a different doctor. And, I mean, but I did also think the Great One, Great Intelligence, I don't know. It's not. It's a different voice completely, but I don't know. I did find it kind of funny that every time, like, when the spiders have to mention the Great One, is like, yes, and she went to see the Great One. I'll praise the Great One. It just reminds me of Jojo Rabbit when they all have to Heil Hitler for like 5 minutes.
But in certain religions, that's customary.
Yeah.
For example, again, please don't be offended if I get this wrong, but my understanding is that in Islam, if you mention the name of Muhammad, you must say "Praise be His name" or "Praise be unto Him," and it's a sign of reverence. So,
all right. But I'm very curious as to what the Great One is. Is it just a giant spider, or is it an ethereal spider or something? I don't know.
well, we have one more episode to find out.
Yeah, definitely. I also just like that the Doctor was originally on Metabilis 3 for all of 5 minutes and happened to steal the last great power crystal on the planet. So that was kind of funny. That it's just, he just happens to steal that.
Except that, if you recall, when he went there, he seemed to know exactly where it was.
Yeah, I guess he was kind of going for it specifically. So, yeah, very interesting stuff. And also, just I like the twist that the Queen actually wants peace with the two legs, which is interesting. So,
The Dr. Campbell. You are welcome.
what
My
if
friend
he's
Sarah
the old
Jane
hermit
Smith.
from
It is
Gallifrey?
kind of you to come and visit an old man.
Jal Takai.
Maybe he's space Tibetan.
I could see a blue crystal.
I can see your comb over.
The crystal at any cost.
I was gonna say, jump backwards, land on your back. That works too. I mean, while they've got their backs turned, grab a vase and hit him.
Sorry, Doctor.
We are all apt to surrender ourselves to domination. Even the strongest of us.
You mean me?
Not all spiders sit on the back.
No, he's talking about my greed.
Greed? You?
It's my greed for knowledge, for information. He's saying that all this is basically my fault. If I hadn't taken the crystal in the first place, I know who you are now.
You were always a little slow in the uptake, my boy.
It's been a long, long time. He was my teacher. My guru, if you like. In another time, another place.
Another life.
Oh no. Don't tell me you're a Time Lord too.
I am. But the discipline they serve was not for me.
No, nor for me.
I regenerated and came to Earth, to Tibet.
Regenerated?
That's the first
Yes.
time they've said that.
It's when a Time Lord's body wears out, he regenerates, becomes new.
That is why you can live such a long time.
I see. Well, what about Choji? Is he a Time Lord too?
In a sense. In another sense, he doesn't exist.
You've lost me.
Me too, I'm afraid.
Choji is a projection of my own self.
Is there no other way?
None.
It's the end game.
No! Yates! Mr. Yates!
So you lied. Your attack failed.
Did you really believe these creatures could overcome the 8 legs? They have minds as easily controlled as their own sheep.
Oh, I feel bad for these guys.
His compassion protected him, just as Tommy's innocence was his shield. Hello, Sarah Jane.
Hi.
Whatever that meant. Oh,
Please, don't. Please.
Don't concern yourselves. I am not dying, merely regenerating.
If you complete that circuit, the energy will build up and up until it cannot be contained. You will destroy yourself.
You waste the little time remaining to you. Even now, the cave of crystal is destroying the cells of your body. Everything is on
was it just too much?
We're free!
Good job.
He's been gone over 3 weeks now.
Oh, that's nothing. One time I didn't see him for months. What's more, when he did turn up, he had a new face. Could have been a completely different man.
No. He knew if he went back there, he would destroy himself.
I will give the process a little push and the cells will regenerate. He will become a new man.
Literally?
Of course, he will look quite different.
Not again.
And it will shake up the brain cells a little.
When will all this happen?
Well, there's no time like the present, is there?
Oh boy.
Goodbye. Look after him.
Now, wait a moment.
Look, Brigadier, look. I think it's starting.
Well, here we go again.
Oof, got all the color in his hair again. Alrighty. That's 3 down. 3 down. And
5 to go.
5 to go. Yep. Oh boy. Alrighty. That is Planet of the Spiders.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed, but I'm rather surprised it wasn't a bigger exit. I mean, it was very fitting. You know, he literally sacrificed himself to stop the Great One. All praise to the Great One. But for some reason, I expected that she would still be there on the Planet of the Spiders when that happened. I didn't expect it to be back at the lab there at unit headquarters.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, to even like try to compare this to the War Games, I think is a mistake. Because the War Games, even comparing that to any Doctor Who story, like that's a cut above the rest. But it's a story where, like, it doesn't feel quite like, yes, this is the end of the Third Doctor's era. It's like, this is where we're stopping. We're going to move on from here. It works well enough. It's a decent enough finale, but yeah, I don't know. It's all right. So,
yeah, I mean, they set it up. I mean, it's very obvious when they had him in the 4th episode look like he was dead.
Yeah, and
then meeting Kanpo Rinpoche, who said, "We're Time Lords. We will regenerate." And then when Sarah explains it, and then the Brigadier says, "Oh yes, that's happened to him before." I mean, it's all a great setup. It's just it was so incredibly low key.
Yeah, definitely. Because I guess even in the War Games, there's pretty much no setup. Actually, it's just at the end, at his trial, that the Time Lords force him to change his fate. They force him to regenerate instead. Whereas this one, they do set it up a bit more, but it is a lot more subdued. Even like the final, I guess, battle with the Great One, he didn't really do anything. He just kind of knew that giving the crystal would explode her brain. Like, he didn't really need to do anything. He just needed to get the crystal there. Yeah. So, yeah, it is a very subdued ending. But I also like, it does sort of, I guess maybe ties into almost of a character arc for the Third Doctor of his greed. Because that's the whole reason any of this is happening in the first place, is because he took that crystal. Yeah. And there have been moments where, like, you know, he'll run off or go do something where it's like, well, maybe you could be doing this, but he goes off to get more knowledge or something like that. I'm thinking of Inferno, when he, you know, went off, is like, well, I'm going to go see what can happen here. Good luck with that whole evil goo thing, you know? And, you know, luckily it worked out that he went to that other universe and figured out what was happening, but still. So it does kind of work with his character, but yeah, it's just sort of a, I mean, even for the finales for the Third Doctor, like, this is probably one of the weaker ones. Yeah. So, and then, yeah, I guess just the fact, too, that for our sort of big, you know, final villain of the era, it's just a bunch of spiders. It's a bunch of talking spiders. Like, at least the first Doctor, and say what you will about the 10th planet, that was still the Cybermen. Yeah. And then the War Games was, you know, a Time Lord, and resulting in the Time Lords at the end. So this one, for it's like, yes, we're ending on spiders. All right? Like, I get you can't end it on the Master, obviously, but yeah. I don't know. It's okay. So, well, to kind of go into the notes, the first thing I wrote down was spider politics, which were kind of interesting. Honestly, you know, we kind of say that, you know, once you get to the halfway point of the story, it like dramatically changes. And while that was kind of true here, I will say that I feel like Lupton and his spider were kind of pushed to the sideline once you got to Metabilis 3. Yeah. And for a bit, I was actually kind of liking this weird sort of, you know, partnership between the two of them, even taking on the other spiders, you know? So that was kind of interesting. So Tommy got smart. There was a purpose to this character. He wasn't a bad character by any means, but I'm not sure, like, what purpose he actually served. I guess he got the crystal away from them.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
Yeah.
So...
And I guess they needed somebody to take the crystal who didn't have any reason to take it.
Yeah.
Because that would have been, they need somebody who simply took it simply because it was pretty and therefore could not get involved in the politics. Now, one of the things this is going to sound very strange. There was a book in the mid-'60s that they made into a movie about a young man with, reduced mental capacity. And they do this experimental procedure on him, and he becomes a super genius. And, all of the problems that comes along with that. But it turns out tragically because the procedure starts to reverse itself, and by the end, he goes back to being essentially what Tommy was here in the beginning. But all that being said, all of the, trying to kill Tommy and then trying to kill Yates, that took a long time when 30 seconds of that could have been back there on the planet of the spiders, where as the big mountain exploded, you see all the townspeople there looking up going, it's true, we are free, the spiders are dead. Just something to wrap up their story. Now, I realize they all realized that they were free when they ran out and, the spiders were all frying themselves. But just something that's, standing there, arm around the wife and going, oh, look, we are truly free.
Yeah.
So it's just a minor thing.
Well, and also just the fact that this whole time of, like, they're trying to zap Tommy, well, it didn't work. And I was like, okay, so there's got to be something here. And it's like, it's his innocence that's protected him. It's like, from a bolt of lightning? Like, yeah, why don't you go stand out in the rain and do that? And man, if only... It's a good thing, when they did the experiment with the key on the kite, that nobody there was innocent, or else that wouldn't have worked, Well,
Benjamin Franklin was certainly not innocent.
Yeah, so... and they even said, like, the reason Yates survived is because of his compassion.
Yeah. I had assumed that Tommy was surviving because he had been changed by the crystal.
Yeah.
But then when Yates jumped in front of him, Yates never touched the crystal, so I thought, well, this is a good way to get rid of Yates.
Yeah, I thought that was just going to be the end of Yates. Like, I guess he can keep going. There's no real reason that we can't keep going with the unit crew for into the next era, so... Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, we know that the Brigadier goes through, don't we? Because...
Yeah.
Isn't he there? I can't remember. No, I guess he's not there.
There's a number of episodes still with the Brigadier. I think, if I remember right, when we watched Dimensions in Time, that was actually like the first point of the Sixth Doctor meeting the Brigadier. So I think he is still with, he'll pop up with the 4th, 5th, and I guess 7th as well. So, yeah. So let's see here. The Doctor had that device, which I guess just got the electrical pulse out of him, and then he used it to find a rock that was similar, and then they all used that to block the light. Like, I guess I kind of at least get that.
Yeah.
Like, it's this thing that'll, it kind of blocks the lightning, it takes out the electrical charge. He found the correct rock that will diffuse the lightning on them, so...
But again, having never seen it before, it does appear as somewhat of a Deus Ex Machina, Out of nowhere, Doctor says, find me the old satchel, and that little machine that's in it will cure all of our problems. Like, why? Set it up. Put it in the first episode before we even know about the spiders. Do something that lets us know that this is going to come in later and, sort out what needs to be sorted out.
Yeah, he made it sound like, yes, it's in the old leather satchel next to the TARDIS consoles. Like, he's just had this there for 500 years. He's just never used it. He hasn't found the right occasion. So, let's see. Well, you definitely called it about the origin of the spiders, that they came from Earth with a time traveler? I didn't catch that part, though. There was something about a time traveler. Like, he came out of a time vortex or something 500 years ago. But I can't remember what that was. But I think that's where the spiders also came from, maybe? Y'all can clear that up in the comments. But they were also from Earth, so that's 3 enemies that we've had from Earth: the Silurians, the Sea Devils, and now the spiders. So, we had the cocoons, cocooning them up. Seems like an inefficient way of keeping your prisoners stored, you know? Like, because you have to keep coming back and cutting it all open, and you probably got to throw that away and do it again, you know, whenever you put them back. Like, or you could just do the webbing around the hands, you know? That'd probably be easier.
That was very similar, though, to what, wasn't it James Cameron, who did the first Alien film? The Xenomorph also webbed up all the people.
Yeah, so...
before eating them.
Yeah. Let's see. I wrote down Queen, Peace, and then Not. So that was all a trick, I guess, just to try to get the crystal back.
Yeah.
The last power crystal of Metabilis 3. And yeah, so I'm not sure. So I guess this whole thing is them and their science was like, well, we've got this whole thing that'll expand our minds. Because I guess that's the thing with Tommy, is that they set up that the crystal will expand your mind, which it only did in this episode, and never did that in the previous episode where the Doctor used it as to, like, unhypnotize people.
Yeah.
So,
although you could theoretically say he expanded their minds to overcome the hypnosis. But yeah, seriously, how many people remember the first time it was used back in Green Death? But it was in Green Death, wasn't it?
Yes. That was...
Or was it with the boss?
That was also the Green Death.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was both the Green Death, because that was Global Chemicals and the hippies and Joe and everything. So, but yeah, so their plan was to expand the Great One's mind, but I guess it's just brain doesn't fit in that body or something, and she just exploded. Like, it didn't fully explain, but I guess that's basically it. It's just it expanded too far.
Well, doesn't that also happen to Red Skull in Captain America when he picks up the Tesseract? It just basically...
Is that what happens at the end of that movie?
I thought that was what was happening, is that when he actually ended up touching it, it overwhelmed his entire being, not just his mind, but his body as well, and that's how he disappeared. Ultimately, I guess, ended up on Vormir, but...
I suppose so. Something like that, yeah. I don't know. I've never been sure about that, and it's been about 11 years since that movie came out, so... let's see. We had the Abbot, Campo, who, yeah, he was the old hermit. I like that they sort of brought that full circle, because that was in The Demons, which was the season 9 finale. So, just bringing that full circle, someone from the Doctor's past. Which is great. I like that, because I've always said I've wanted to know more about... I've kind of wanted to know more about the Doctor's past. Like, well, he had a family and everything. Obviously, he had a family because he eventually had a granddaughter. And so I've always sort of wondered about that. But at the same time, like, I wonder about that, but you don't need to go into too much detail. And, you know... And there are some people that say we've gotten too much detail about the Doctor's past in recent seasons of modern Doctor Who. But actually that time frame still of the first body that would, you know, go on in at the beginning of Doctor Who, we still don't really know anything about that guy, pretty much. The young William Hartnell. So
now, theoretically speaking, Kanpo, who is Choshi, is he going to stay on Earth? So that means we'll have 2 Time Lords on Earth, but this guy is basically going to try to keep out of everyone's way and not interfere like our Doctor does?
I don't know, because it's an interesting thing. Is like, he's a Time Lord, but he pretty much left the Time Lords like the Doctor. But from what the Doctor said, he has power that the Doctor doesn't, which is why the Doctor needs its TARDIS anyway. So I don't know if he's going to stay on Earth, you know, just maybe he goes back to Tibet, I don't know. Or if he's just going to go off now. But yeah, they could definitely bring him back at some point. So, yeah. So, I guess we can specifically call this one the Abbot. Because all Time Lords need to have a "the" sort of name. even though they don't, there are a lot of Time Lords like Rassilon and everything. It's just their name, you know, or Omega. But yeah,
well, we've had the monk, we've had the master.
Yeah, the monk, the master, the doctor.
Now, the guy who came down to tell the doctor that he was going to see the master again the first time, the guy in the bowler hat who just appeared in midair, he didn't have a name. I guess you'd call him the messenger.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we have any in modern Doctor Who. I guess not. No, not really.
We had, was it the warlord or the war chief in War Games?
I can't remember which one it was, because there were two of them. One of them was the warlord, one of them was the war chief, but I can't remember. He may have been the war chief,
Yeah, I think it was.
and the other guy, the Steve Jobs looking guy, was the war lord. So yeah, it was something like that. And I know in the future we'll get some Time Lord called the Ronnie. So I remember she was actually in Dimensions in Time, and people were mad that was our first time seeing the Ronnie in anything Doctor Who, in Dimensions in Time of all things. So but yeah, and then yeah, we had the whole thing of it's the Doctor's greed that caused all of this, and it's his fault, which again I do feel like that works for specifically this Doctor's character as well, which you could say is also what happened with the War Games, that, you know, the Doctor going around to different places, you know, gallivanting around the universe, that finally catches up with him, and the Time Lords have to put a stop to it. So yeah, I guess if every regeneration there's something that has to catch up with them. For this one, it's greed. For the last one, it's, you know, going around the cosmos. For the first one, I guess it's just his age that catches up with him. So I wonder what will catch up with the fourth Doctor. Maybe how long he sticks around on the show. You've had too many episodes. We're going to put a stop to this. So, but yeah, we did get after 11 years, they have finally established regeneration. So that's very, very good. Because yeah, even just with the last one, it's like, oh, well, you've changed your face before. And it's like, well, that's not how this works, you know? And I will say that with this, it's so interesting seeing a very quiet regeneration. He just sort of changes. He's outside the TARDIS and everything. Because I don't know when the last time was on Modern Doctor Who that there was a quiet regeneration. I don't think there was, actually. Because after each one, they just keep getting more violent with their regenerations. He keeps blowing up the TARDIS every time he does it. And just, like, there's fire and everything inside the TARDIS. It's all terrible. That now we're now joking about this, that every time the Doctor regenerates, the TARDIS kicks him out so that it can redecorate in there. So, yeah. Which I'm sure will be happening soon, when the 13th Doctor will regenerate into our newly announced 14th Doctor. So, let's see. So I guess to the fear that the Great One was talking about for the Doctor, I guess that was just the fear of death, specifically. The Doctor just didn't want to regenerate. And yeah, I guess the last one was a bit traumatic. He was forced to regenerate and wound up on Earth. So yeah, but I did like at the end that the Brigadier was there to actually see how it happened, because yeah, that's a good point. The Doctor just shows up, completely different face, and he just has to trust that this is the same guy. So now he actually got to see it happen. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this episode. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Well then, it is time once again to go through
Holy moly.
every episode. I have them all the thumbnails prepared. Let's start off Spearhead from Space, the Third Doctor's first episode, which was a solid first episode.
That was the Autons, wasn't it?
Yes, first appearance of the Autons. Very solid episode. I thought, even though people will disagree on this, I thought it was better than The Power of the Daleks. And yes, very, very interesting, very good, just setting up how we're going to go about doing Doctor Who just on Earth. So, and that was back when Pertwee's hair was much shorter. So,
what on earth were we doing in that thumbnail?
It was because in the preview image for that season, it had the Doctor doing with his cape. So we both did that. So I just felt right. So next up is Doctor Who and the Silurians, which was an interesting one. And this time, unlike last time, I just had all the thumbnails. This time I actually have them side by side for double episodes. So the Silurians, that was also a really good one. And I remember it getting way too topical with the guy who the guy who didn't want the vaccine and stuff like that. But yeah, that one was also a really good episode.
And started a kind of different relationship with Lethbridge Stewart and the Doctor, because the Doctor was very angry that unit had to blow up the Silurian base.
Yeah.
He seemed very angry at the end, as I recall.
Yeah, it definitely fully sets up the whole military versus scientist sort of mentality between the Brigadier and the Doctor. So, all right. Next up was the Ambassadors of Death.
Remember radiation?
Yes.
And the ambassadors, were they from Mars?
No. I don't think so. Maybe. Were they? I don't remember.
It was somewhere, but they had taken over or made themselves like the astronauts, and the astronauts were actually being held in some kind of holographic prison.
Yeah. And I don't think they were actually, bad or anything like that, but that guy, that general guy, he, wanted to go to war specifically. But it is a problem that this is, 4 or 5 seasons ago now, so trying to remember it all is a bit tricky, but yeah.
And that was 7 episodes, which seems kind of odd.
Yeah, I think in Series 7, all the doubles were 7 episodes. Yeah, because after that we had Inferno, which, that sort of messes with your head because they're backwards of each other. But yeah, that one, it was good. Overall, it was good.
Yes, we just don't say the G word.
Yes, specifically. And even though you can see the werewolf right there. It was odd. It was odd. It felt like 2 stories. We've got this parallel universe story, and we've got this whole, drilling thing going on. And overall, it worked out okay. Just a couple minor things here and there.
And if I recall correctly, there was a callback to this in Mind of Evil, when they said, what does the Doctor fear the most? We saw these flames, and we couldn't figure it out, because somebody then said, the world burning by fire, like in Inferno. We didn't see the world burning by fire. We thought the world was going to be blown up with lava and volcanoes. We didn't think fire.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're right that I didn't think of that at the time. So, and then of course, the best part of the episode was just mirroring us and everything, and mirroring the thumbnail. So that was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. Overall, really, again, I love the story of the parallel universe. And again, if they had just fixed those couple of minor details, it would have been, in my opinion, it would have been up there with War Games.
Yeah. Now, I am also noticing, because both of these thumbnails are back to back, I'm noticing that the word Inferno, they don't line up with each other, which I wouldn't have made them line up perfectly because I did them, 1 week after another, but seeing it now, seeing that they're just off, that kind of drives me nuts. So we will move on when we return to Terror of the Autons, which was a solid introduction for the Master, definitely. Yeah, I remember that one being good, and we understood it now. So
now, this wasn't the one with the doll factory, was it? This is where he was making up the clowns.
Right. The first one, Spearhead from Space, I think had the doll factory. And then this one...
He was having the Autons or somebody go around with the fake flowers.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah, and this was... I think there was another example. We didn't mention it in Spearhead from Space, but one of those Pertwee faces where it's just a little too goofy, you know, when he gets tied up by the telephone cord and stuff like that. So, yeah. After that was The Mind of Evil, which was it was a very interesting one, and, you know, that's when we started to realize that the Master was going to be a part of a lot of this season. But yeah, very interesting thing. So what was it? It was the prison and also like a world peace conference that were both happening, which still seemed kind of weird. It's like, okay, what are they doing? You know, how are these linked together? But they're linked together more specifically by the Master. I don't remember what he was going to do. Oh no, he was going to blow up the conference, I think. Yeah, it was something like that. It was another one of those convoluted master plans. So, but overall, a good episode. After that was The Claws of Axos. Another one where, you know, you just sort of get into the middle of it and it's like, oh, hey, there's the Master. So,
I remember being very impressed with the makeup of the Axonians, whatever they were. Yeah. But again, this was one of the ones where we said the biggest thing wrong with this was the title of it, because wasn't it really more of a plant thing trying to get its way into the earth?
It was gonna like drain the earth of its nutrients and stuff like that.
So you know,
they were digging their claws into the earth.
Yeah.
And I mean, if the biggest problem with the episode is the title, that's like 99%, you're probably good, you know? But yeah, overall it was a decent story. After that was Colony in Space. That one was good. I'm trying to remember. So there was I guess it was the mining thing, and then the colonists that were there that had escaped Earth. Yeah.
But then it turns out there's this secret civilization under the ground.
Right. I can't remember much about the aliens in this one. Or I guess not really aliens, well, they're natives to that planet, but still. But yeah, I can't remember much about that one. Yeah. So, after that, stepping into some of the fun thumbnails, the Demons. Fun fact, the first video of the Demons is blocked. You can't watch it on YouTube anymore. Huh. Yeah, it's the one episode the BBC doesn't like me having, so... yeah, I don't know, but I put in a dispute. It got rejected. I could try it again, but I don't know. But good news is, if you go to the second video for parts 4 and 5, that has a link to where you can go watch the first 3 parts down in the pinned comment. So there is a way to still watch it, where we make all sorts of references.
Remind me again why the bee is there.
That is because... they're trying to get past, like, the heat barrier, I think, and someone, probably the Brigadier, is like, oh, it's impossible. And the doctor says, well, by all known laws of science, a bumblebee should not be able to fly, but it does. So we're going to get through this heat barrier. So I was like, oh, that's the bee movie thing. So I put in the Jerry Seinfeld bee.
And then at the end, you've got the big demon who appears to be like a satyr, you know, part man, part goat.
Yeah.
And is willing to give ultimate power to the doctor, and the doctor refuses it, but he won't give it to the master, and then he just disappears or blows up or something.
Yes. And I think that's where they finally arrested the master, because that was the end of the season. So, yeah, it was probably... It might be, story-wise, the weakest of Season 8, but at the same time, it was still a lot of fun, you know, cults and witchcraft and the master and stuff like that. So, and the gargoyle guy that was running around that they just kept blowing up. So
he kept reassembling himself.
Yeah, so that one was a lot of fun. After that, we had Day of the Daleks, which was very interesting, all apart from the Daleks themselves.
Yeah, it's like they were like a last-minute addition. It was a good story that had very little to do with actually them.
Which I think they might have been, actually. That they were like, well, let's just throw in the Daleks. Like, but we already have this story. It's like, well, just sort of put them in there.
Yeah.
But honestly, that kind of made it a more interesting Dalek story because it wasn't really, it wasn't really about them. It was more about like the leader here and stuff like that. So yeah, very interesting. And they had the whole time loop that happens.
Now, were the Ogrons were first introduced here, weren't they?
Yes.
Okay.
After this was the Curse of Peladon. Again, another, we understand it now in context. And yeah, I mean, second time around, still a really good story.
Yeah.
So, and a really interesting planet that I kind of wish they would, bring it back sometime. So, after that was the Sea Devils, which was interesting. I think it might have been the only master story of season 9. But overall, it was interesting with, the master doing his usual thing of, I'm going to use these people in order to destroy the Earth and stuff like that. But, and obviously that doesn't work out in the end. But yeah, it was still interesting. The Sea Devils were an interesting enemy and stuff like that. So yeah.
And weren't the Sea Devils like an offshoot of the Silurians?
Yeah, they
basically the sea version.
Yeah, they evolved underwater and stuff. So after that was the mutants, which, if I remember right, not a lot of people liked this episode, but we enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it was interesting with the I guess the natives. Yeah, they were being mutated by what was happening, and then you had the whoever the evil leader was trying to take over and stuff like that. I think at the end he just goes completely insane.
Yeah,
like, oh, this is the new Earth and stuff like that. And then at the end they evolve not into creepy looking beetle dudes, but instead into these Technicolor angel dudes. Yeah. So, which I tried to replicate in a second thumbnail to varying degrees of success. But yeah, overall, it was still an interesting story.
Yeah.
And the main villain, I thought, was a really good, interesting villain. So, after that, we had the Time Monster.
Again, some of the best costumes and sets when they got to the ancient Greek portion. Love the old actors, love the whole Greek segment. The only part of this that we just absolutely could not tolerate was the actual time monster itself, Kronos, who turned out to be a big flappy bird, which made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's just this strange, pure white bird thing that the master was going to use to eat time or something. I don't know. It was a very strange master story.
Yeah.
So, and I guess, so I was wrong earlier that there were 2 master stories in season 9. After that was the 3 Doctors, which again, context makes everything better. But yeah, again, another really solid episode. So,
and again, the only real complaint we had about that was the flute just happened to magically appear at the right moment.
Yeah.
Again, if they had simply set that up at the very first, just like we were talking about today, if they set it up just 1 or 2 sentences somewhere earlier, then it wouldn't be the Deus Ex Machina that it turned out to be.
Right, yeah.
But great special effect when, what was his name?
Omega.
When he lifts his helmet off and there's nothing there, and they realize, he's literally just his own will keeping this entire pocket universe together.
Yeah, and aside from the Pizza the Hut monsters, overall it was a really good episode, and Omega is a really, really good villain that they just never have brought back in all this time. So,
well, theoretically, he destroyed himself.
I guess something like that, but I mean, you can find some way.
Yeah.
You can always find some way of bringing a Time Lord back.
No one ever dies in science fiction.
Yeah, so it would be interesting if they brought back Omega in a modern episode. So yeah, and you do also appreciate this, second time around after going through the first and second Doctor's era. It's like, oh, they're back. Like, this is great. So, after that was Carnival of Monsters. Which was an interesting story.
Yeah.
Because at first you're kind of watching this like, okay, well, the Doctor and Joe, they're on a ship, but then we've got these, carny folk who are, trying to sell this act to these gray aliens and stuff like that. It's like, what's going on? Until you finally realize that the TARDIS materialized inside this shrinker, environment, and then you get all sorts of stuff with that. And then, just because of his, Snidely Whiplash mustache, I decided to just plaster it all over the thumbnail. So, including on the Drashings. So, which were also a very interesting monster. And when they were going around and inside the circuitry, I thought that was also very interesting.
Yeah.
So overall, a good episode. And the first episode where they mentioned Metabilis 3. So, after that was Frontier in Space, the last of the Master episodes, which was really, really good right until the end.
Right up until it wasn't.
Yeah, pretty much, it was a really solid episode. You have this whole kind of a Cold War going on between the humans and the Draconians, who were very interesting design and everything, very great makeup. And then you realize, it's the Master, he's trying to play both sides and stuff like that, leading to the final twist that the Master is actually setting up this entire war for the Daleks, and it's like, oh, this is going to be great, and it's over. All right, I guess it's over. Let's continue on, and then you move on to the next one, and it's not really a continuation.
Of the entire 11 seasons, I thought the Draconians were the most effective-looking aliens.
Yeah.
We've had some really good stuff in the past, but they were perfectly designed to just innately strike fear into human beings because they are somewhat reptilian.
Yeah.
And human beings have this just innate fear of reptiles. But they were intelligent. They were a well-ordered society. When you finally get to their home planet, Draconia, and you find out that they didn't start this war, and you're going, hey, what's going on here? How did this happen?
Yeah.
And so, again, very well executed, literally right up until the last second. And even the last second when you say, aha, this is going to be a great Dalek story, and then it turns into mud.
Which, I guess that's more on the next story than it is on this one. But yeah, honestly, if the Draconians were on Star Trek The Next Generation, they'd probably still be one of the best aliens on that show.
Yeah.
So they were definitely really great quality, and it was our final episode with the Master, who, at least it was up until the end, it was a really good episode. So yeah, and just a great character and great performance overall. Really, I feel like elevated this whole era.
Yeah.
So after that was Planet of the Daleks, the return of Terry Nation to Doctor Who.
And Daleks on a planet trying to resurrect or try to build an army of Daleks
that could be invisible, like the purple dudes on the planet.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, this episode is Daleks are on a jungle planet, and there are some native aliens that cause trouble. Now, I've described almost every Dalek episode up to this point, with a couple exceptions. So, yeah, I suppose it wasn't bad.
Now, is this the one where they were trying to put together the space plague or whatever the big thing was? They were going to infect everybody, or is that something else later on?
No, it is. They were creating this sort of bio killer, basically. Yeah, that was this one. So, yeah. After that was the Green Death, where I, again, had way too much fun with the thumbnails. So,
And who's the guy in the background? You told me. Is that Amogus?
That is one of the guys from the Amogus meme. Technically, I should have probably put the other guy who appears in that meme, the crewmate. He's actually more recognizable. But this guy, that's what I always think of. So, yeah, I can't explain it. Because if I try to explain it, it won't work. It's like trying to explain the ancient Sumerian joke. Except it's not thousands of years old. It's like 1 year old, and I still can't explain it. So.
All right, so this is the one with the maggots, the giant maggots.
Yes.
And some global oil company is causing problems.
Yes. There was a whole thing that Global Chemicals was being controlled by a computer that was purposefully inefficient to be like a human. But it also was annoying people because it was inefficient. And then whatever they were doing, whatever it was causing these maggots to get bigger. And then that was causing the Green Death, which was cured by mushrooms from a hippie. Dr. Jones, who Joe fell in love with. Yes.
And then Joe left.
Yes.
Oh, we never did mention Liz in that entire first season.
No, we didn't. She didn't do a lot, unfortunately.
But I liked her.
Yeah, I did like Liz. I remember, I guess it was Ambassadors of Death. There was that entire car chase and stuff that she was in. Yeah. Other than that, she was interesting, but they didn't do enough with her. But yeah. So, but now the way we describe the Green Death makes it sound stupid. But it was a decent episode.
Yeah.
So, and a pretty good send-off for Joe. And our first appearance of Metabilis 3.
And one of the things about it, just that kind of subtle, you've got industry, causing all the trouble, and then you've got the organic people coming in and saying, hey, we've got a way to fix all of this. So, very early on, this is a, save the planet by going organic sort of thing.
Yeah, so, so it was a very interesting one. After that, we make our way around to the Time Warrior.
Really like the Sontaran.
Yeah.
Thought he was really good. Again, not as effective a makeup as the Draconians or the Silurians.
Yeah.
But the guy playing it, though, was just really, really good because, you've got this big kind of bulky guy you expect him to be really kind of dull and slow-witted, but he really wasn't. And then they land in the Middle Ages, which is, for the first time we're really seeing a time travel into the past. We always do the future, but going back into the past is always so much fun. And he, picks up Sarah Jane at this point.
Right.
And then, what was the guy's name? Beamish? Fergish? Rubish.
Yes.
Rubish. What a great character. And again, thought that might have been an interesting idea for another companion.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, because, it's sometimes we say that about other scientists, they might be an interesting companion, but he really was, it could have worked. He was knowledgeable, but he was also very clumsy and stuff. It could have still worked with the Doctor and Sarah Jane. But yeah, really, really solid story overall.
This was one of my favorites of Pertwee's era.
Yeah. After that was Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Okay. Notice the long pause there. Again, a good story that the moment you started thinking about it, it fell apart. And it's not just about the T-Rex. Again, if the T-Rex had looked as good as all the other dinosaurs, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But the whole premise, the more we started talking about it, the more pieces kept falling off of it. It's like, when you're in a soapbox derby or something and you're going downhill and you suddenly notice, hey, wait a minute, my hubcap just flew off. And then over that, wait a minute, there's another hubcap, and then wait, there goes my front wheel, and there goes an axle, and there goes, and by the time you're literally just sliding down by the seat of your pants going, what happened here? What happened to this story? It's like every piece of it just fell away.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people love Invasion of the Dinosaurs. And again, it started out as an interesting premise, but then the further it went, the just more incredibly ludicrous it became.
It would have worked, again, as two stories. It's trying to do a little too much. It's like, all right, you have dinosaurs. All right, that's great. That's interesting. You have time reversal. Okay, we see, the problems of that. But if you gave that, more time, if you gave that the full 6 episodes, okay, I can see how, you can fix a lot of these problems, even just down to, well, don't fake it. Like, don't do this whole, we're going to another planet. Just do a time reversal. Like, yes, we all know what we're doing. We're going to commit, time genocide across the Earth, undo everyone who has been born for thousands of years, and we're going to start over. Okay, just own that. Yeah. You're already zealots. Just own that you're a zealot, Yeah. So you could do stuff to work like that, but putting the two of them together and swapping, trying to fit both of them in this sort of plot line, like, they don't really go together.
And again, the germ of that story, that you have people who are literally trying to save the planet, it gets into that whole, Vietnam era thing of we must destroy this village in order to save it. So these people were saying, we literally have to destroy the Earth in order to save it from itself.
Yeah.
So, and that's an interesting story, but that wasn't what ultimately happened here. It just got too involved in the whole, using the dinosaurs to make London evacuate. But why did they need to evacuate? Because they were going to take it back in time anyway. It's just, we're already spending too much time on it. So
yeah. Well, because I was about to say, like, it might have been interesting if you had just started with, like, the Doctor and Sarah Jane have got back from their adventure. They're back on Earth. They're trying to get to Unit. And then it's like, well, wait, something's wrong. Like, what if time had already reversed? They've already won and gone through their plan. So now you have to figure out how to reverse the time they've already reversed and get the Earth back to normal. And that could be interesting. And then, I guess if you're back in prehistoric times anyway, I guess you just have dinosaurs there if you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, a little too convoluted. And we haven't even mentioned Mike and his turn in all of that. So, but yeah. And this second thumbnail is probably one of my favorite thumbnails I've ever made. It's way too many things packed into one image. I've got the two of us, I've got Mike, I've got Killer Queen, I've got an inflatable dinosaur, I've got Will Smith, I've got a pyramid, and I've got the moon, to where you can't really see the background at all. So, it was one of my favorites to try to make.
Now, remind me what Will Smith was doing there.
Will Smith, and this is the dumbest reference ever. 2019, I think, they did a YouTube rewind. They used to do these at the end of every year. YouTube would do a rewind video about the past year. They were always so awful, and they were terrible. And I think the last one starts with Will Smith, and he just says, it's rewind time. And he's like, I want Fortnite and Marcus Brownlee. And neither of those two, it's a video game nobody likes and a YouTube channel, which it's a good YouTube channel. Marcus Brownlee is a good YouTuber, but he has nothing to do with Fortnite. And it was it was so horrible. And everyone made fun of that. Just him saying it's rewind time. So I put that in. That also goes a bit with Killer Queen. If I know one of you is a JoJo fan, you understand that reference. The rest of you, I can't explain that, so... And then the inflatable dinosaur, that's obvious. The pyramid and the moon was just from our conversation. That was probably one of my favorite discussions we've had, because we just kept going with everything that would go wrong with this plan. So, alright. Now we will actually move on from that one.
Yes, here we go.
Death to the Daleks. Slight interesting thing. The Exelons were an interesting race. The temple and stuff like that was very interesting. Worst part of it, probably the Daleks. Not that they were really bad, but it was just another sort of slow, monotonous Dalek story.
And again, the germ of this story was interesting, where it's like, do you remember seeing that film Enemy Mine with Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett. Louis Gossett was the two enemies in a space war crash on the same planet and realize the only way they're going to survive is by becoming friends.
No, but I understand the premise.
But this was the perfect setup for that.
Yeah.
You've got the Doctor and a group of, I guess, didn't we say they were Earth people?
Yeah.
And then the Daleks, and none of them have any power. And the idea of the Daleks coming to realize the only way we're going to survive this is if we work with the humans. You know, our mortal enemies. And then, it kind of dissolves the Exelons themselves, the little guys who saved them in the end. There were a lot of great things, but then it went into, let's go through the maze and let's find the guy who disappears, and then the whole city melts, and it's like, whoa, there was such a good premise that just did not go anywhere.
Yeah. Microphone's not on.
How long do you think?
God, I hope not the whole episode. Maybe I'll go look at that real quick. One sec. I
don't know how long the microphone has been off. I'm just going to assume... I'm going to say 5 minutes. And we're going to hope. The good news is, this is Doctor Who, so I do have camera audio backup.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we're fine. We don't have to refilm this whole thing. But Doctor Who, because it is a quieter episode, that we shouldn't, have any problems if I do have to use the backup audio.
Okay.
But...
Well, let's move on quickly.
Yes, let's move on quick. I'm just going to assume it just glitched out recently. I'll check afterwards. Anywho, but yeah, the whole thing with, we have to work together. And then 2 minutes later, the Daleks invent guns. And it's like, I guess that's over.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. After that was the Monster of Peladon.
A good return.
Yeah.
And, although the first time Alpha Centauri, we made so many rude jokes about him, her.
Right.
But this time around, I don't know if they had made some slight changes to the costume or whatever it was, but did not look at all as ludicrous as it did the first time around.
Yeah.
But a good story. It turns out that, now we brought back the Ice Warriors as villains again.
Right.
And then you got Eckersley, and then you got the daughter of Peladon. And so, it was a good story all the way around. Didn't really have any major problems with it.
Yeah, definitely. I think someone said this is actually the last time the Ice Warriors are in classic Doctor Who. So, which is interesting. You'd think they could bring them back, but I guess you'd also think they could bring back Peladon at some point. Yeah. But yeah, definitely very good all around with the different stories of, the miners and the aristocrats, but also, you have the Chancellor and the Queen, and then you have the Ice Warriors and all of that stuff. So,
and then the fake Agador.
Right, yeah. So that all was really, really good. And that leads us to this final episode, Planet of the Spiders. Of course, we can only see the first thumbnail because, I haven't made the second one. We're filming the episode, so...
This is like that thing in Spaceballs,
Yeah.
So what you need to do then is you need to put in the second thumbnail now, and then we should both turn and look at it. But again, the good thing I thought about this, overall the story is kind of it's not a strong story, but it's interesting, and just we're glad that they didn't overdo the spiders. All right, they are large and they don't do a whole lot of movement. They're not usually done in close up because if they had tried to do big hairy tarantula type things, it would not have translated well.
Yeah. And most of the time when they're attacking, they're using people to attack as well. Yeah. So yeah, for the most part, it's okay. It's a decent enough finale. It's pretty much, it's not a bad end to the Pertwee era. So,
and is that the fake New Mexico in the background there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Specifically. So, but yeah, overall, it's an alright ending to the Third Doctor's era. But yeah, so I guess, and real quick, we could say, how do you think we should rank these three eras we've seen? The First Doctor, Second Doctor, Third Doctor.
Well, I've always said William Hartnell is the Doctor for me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the fact that Hartnell did more stories of the past rather than future.
Yeah.
Pertwee was limited to a lot of the stories, being on Earth, this, that, and the other thing, which was helped, though, by the addition of Roger Delgado as his Moriarty nemesis type thing.
Right.
Again, I really don't have major objections to Patrick Troughton, just that of the three, to me, he is less like the Doctor that I came to expect.
Yeah.
Again, there's nothing wrong with him, and I know that's the writers wanted to be able to carry on without having to reference William Hartnell and all that. And again, if you're asking me to rank them, then I would put Hartnell first, and then Pertwee, and then Troughton. But that's not to say that Troughton is bad at all. I enjoyed Troughton. He just wasn't what I was expecting from Doctor Who.
Right. I would probably say that I think the third Doctor's era has been the most consistent. And part of that I will say is Roger Delgado. It's throughout the entirety of the 8th season, just having this sort of singular villain, you understand him pretty quickly, and yes, he has very ridiculous plans and stuff like that. But still, like, he's very good. He works well off of all the characters, and then even after he's gone, there is just that level of consistency where a lot of times, while there were good episodes, a lot of good episodes with Patrick Troughton, I felt like it was almost kind of up in the air. Like, all right, what are we getting this time? Are we getting, this story is, it's all right. Here's this story, it's kind of all right. Sometimes you get, ones like the Macra Terror where it's like, okay, well, that was kind of weird. And then you go from that to, like, the Faceless ones, or might have actually reversed those, actually, but you go to the Faceless ones, like, okay, well, this is weird, but this is a very interesting mystery and stuff like that. Like, okay, I can kind of see, where we're going or where we're not going, and that's sort of interesting. But, yeah, and it could also be that maybe part of that, too, is the companions are more consistent. Like, with Pertwee, you have Unit pretty much throughout the entire thing. But then it's like, all right, you have Liz, and then you have Jo, and then you have Sarah Jane. And that is pretty simple, easy. Whereas with Troughton, and especially with Hartnell, you are cycling through them. Pretty much after Ian and Barbara leave, it's just sort of a complete cycle. The only one who's truly consistent is Jamie. But even Jamie, it's like, well, he starts off with Ben and Polly, then he gets Victoria, and then he gets Zoe and stuff. So, yeah, it's like, I would say I've enjoyed the Pertwee era the most because it's been the most consistent. But I still enjoyed those first two eras. Yeah. So, and honestly, like, because I've seen people who have said that once you get into the second Doctor's era, it starts to feel more like modern Doctor Who. I might say that more about Pertwee's era, and especially with how he portrayed the Doctor, even. Because while, yes, there are elements of the second Doctor in, like, Matt Smith or even Jodie Whittaker, like, I see more of Pertwee's Doctor in modern interpretations of the Doctor. So yeah, I have definitely enjoyed this era. It's been really good, and I'm excited to see the long era of the fourth Doctor. So,
what is the first episode of next season?
I think it's just called Robot, actually. Let's go find out. Remove that real quick, and we'll pop down over to season 12. It's just called Robot.
Okay.
Robot. All right. So that's where we'll start. I think it might be... Yeah, it's a 4-parter. So yeah, we will see you guys back next time with Robot. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then that is pretty much it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions. You can catch up on all 11 seasons before we move on. There's also a modern Doctor Who playlist for all my reactions. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.